Hello and welcome to a Netrunner matchup between an Anarch Noise and a Weyland Consortium Building a Better World deck. The Anarch Noise deck is somewhat of an eclectic mix of just about everything possible from Anarch. You'll even see I convinced him to replace some of his Plascretes with Public Sympathy, so this is going to be interesting. The Weyland Consortium is a commercialization deck. He's been playing a lot getting really big woodcutters, which you probably won't see here against Noise because he can get Parasite easily, but you can expect some really big high advanced dice. So here you can see his opening hand. He has an Amazon Grid, a commercialization, installs an Enigma on R&D. Looked like he also had a Hadrian's Wall and a woodcutter. Passes it over to the Anarch. You can see a Public Sympathy, a Test Run, a Djinn, a Parasite, and what looks like it might be a Grimoire. So right now the only ice is on R&D. So he has optional free runs at HQ, and one of the things that's always interesting is when you do the math out, you have about a 59% chance, if you assume that the Corp has an agenda in hand, to grab it if you run HQ 4 times in a turn. So that's not always the best option, but it's always something to consider. Also, here he could run an R&D and spend those 3 credits to Resi Enigma, but he risks hitting a Neural Katana if it was a Neural Katana. So here he installs Djinn. It's a very core card for his deck, so you pretty much want to play the core cards out as fast as possible. That way you don't get hit with the Neural Katana. Here the Corp draws into a toll booth, installs the Amazon Grid, immediately resing it. I would expect him to install probably the woodcutter. Here comes the woodcutter and an advancement token on it, most likely, because otherwise it's on effect. Yep, there goes the advancement token, because it has no effect without an advancement token. Even Chum won't do anything if it's in front of the woodcutter. So here we have Noise running a test run. It's an interesting option. He has one Magnum Opus in this case, so that he can test run the Magnum Opus. I'm sure he'll be installing that on Djinn. It's a unique card out of Noise because he does run some Femme Fatales as well. So he has a lot of options when he plays the test run. Here it looks like the Corp's just going to grab some credits that'll allow him to res that Enigma. We'll see if he does anything else. Probably the best idea to take the credits so that he can res the Enigma in the event that the Noise deck decides to splash down a medium. Wouldn't have been the worst case there, but having the Magnum Opus also isn't bad. So Noise draws the Magnum Opus, still has the Grimoire, the Parasite, and the Public Sympathy in hand, and quite a few credits. You would expect him to play down the Magnum Opus there. Now he's down to 3 cards, so he may want to draw up just in case the Corp has some sneaky tricks. He doesn't, or if he doesn't run, he's okay from C-Source. C-Source is probably less common out of commercialization, but you still somewhat have to expect to get hit with it once in a while out of Weyland. So Corp installs a toll booth on HQ, can't res it, so if the runner decides to run HQ, he does still get in, but it was a good bluff. He still can't risk it being a Neural Katana if he wants to play the cards in his hand. You can see him throwing out the Grimoire, throwing out the Cyber Feeder, and the Parasite hits the Woodcutter. Pretty much going to blow up those 2 credits that he spent advancing. Passes it back to the Corp. The Corp draws into a Beanstalk, rarely a bad card. You'll also see an Archived Memories, which is really interesting. I'm sure it's more for the corporate troubleshooter than anything, but he can get back his advanceable ice like Woodcutter in the case it gets trashed. So we'll see what he does here. You can see he also has a Hadrian's Wall. Beanstalk, that'll allow him to protect his hand and actually res the toll booth. That may be his best option right now, as he can't really defend the Project Atlas in a remote server unless he somehow installs the Hadrian's Wall. He may decide to just drop the Hadrian's Wall in front of the Amazon Grid. The second ice on the Amazon Grid is when you actually start to make money back. So it wouldn't be a total shocker, and then he can follow it up by installing the Project Atlas, and you can feel relatively safe. Obviously, a test run Femme Fatale in this case would be bad. An inside job would be problematic, but you don't really think that the Noise is going to do that. He's already burnt 1 test run. Odds are he hasn't yet drawn into a second one, so probably one of the better moves. Looks like he's going to do it. Drops in the Hadrian's Wall. We'll see if he drops in the Project Atlas. You have to guess so because he no longer can res the toll booth. That was a trash for the Parasite that he'd forgotten. He does not drop in the Project Atlas. Interesting. So it's still pretty vulnerable as hand, but the Noise doesn't appear to be running, so it may be a very good call. Here Noise drops in the Public Sympathy. It was a little early to do that. I tend to drop Public Sympathy when I actually want to save 6 cards in hand, so I'm not sure that was the right time to do it. But on the bright side, if he gets another one into play, he's going to be able to drop up to 9 cards, and now Scorched Earth becomes significantly more difficult to pull off. He'll either have to have 3 Scorched Earth, and a Sea Source double Scorched Earth won't kill the runner. He draws into a Deja Vu and an Ice Carver. Fairly strong. It'll be interesting to see what he does here about the Hadrian's Wall. I think the best move is just to ignore it at this point. The Corp doesn't have a ton of credits to defend R&D, so it may just be good to go after R&D. Draws into an Ice Wall. That was trash to the Parasite, actually, so he actually draws into a Shadow. Here you can see he has Project Atlas and a Posted Bounty in hand. Installs the Shadow onto Archives, partially because of the priority reckon there. We know that he can get in, but the runner has to think about, well, what is that card? Is it going to be a Neural Katana? It's still good bluffing. The runner really can't run there. He has to put himself in a position where he can feel safe to run there. And against Weyland with Scorched Earth and Unknown Influence right now, he's really got to get his cards out that he wants out quickly. That way he doesn't get caught by any sneaky traps like a Snare or a Neural Katana. So we'll see if the Corp here finally drops something in. He does have an Archive Memories in hand, so ironically with that priority requisition in his archives, he could go grab it back and install it under the Hadrians and probably feel a lot safer. But at the same time, it would cost him an action and probably be fairly obvious. It's an interesting risk he's taking, leaving the priority rec there. He's betting on the fact that the Anarch will not run at Archives. And with a Data Sucker, that may not be the safest bet. Because obviously he's going to want to try and get some tokens on that Data Sucker if he wants to burn down that Hadrian's Wall. Here you can see he has a dead card in the Grimoire. It's one of the negatives about running multiples. But at the same time, in this matchup, he does need the HP. So not having to draw, HP in this case being for the Scorched Earth, he needs to be able to not get double Scorched Earth. It's not bad to have dead cards, because you'll just sit on them and they'll wind up saving you from a Scorched Earth or a Private Security Force or random net damage. Drops in a Corroder. I'm not sure if that'll be a good way to break through Hadrian's Wall, but it certainly will help him put some pressure on that server. The Corp no longer will feel safe installing an agenda there. Still no pressure on HQ or R&D or Archive, so there's a bunch of unres dice effectively giving the Corp credits here. Again, you come down to the Neural Katana problem where you don't want to eat the net damage, but sometimes it's the best move to just take the net damage and draw back up. He may have some cards he wants to keep, like the Ice Carver would have been bad to lose the net damage, but at the same time, sometimes you just have to take the risk and make the Corp spend some money, and actually make them show that they played the card that you're afraid of. Advances the Hadrian's Wall, obviously has the commercialization in hand. Here the runner just draws up to his maximum hand size from Public Sympathy and takes some credits. Oh, Posted Bounty. He's drawn a lot of agendas so far, but Posted Bounty is one that Weyland will rarely complain about seeing. You can now res Archer, and though the runner gets the bad publicity, or they get the bad publicity credit every time they make a run, just the fact that you can res Archer is a huge boon. Archer is a dead card in the early game if you can't draw Posted Bounty or score an agenda, so I rarely hear about anyone complaining about getting Posted Bounties. I will hear about people complaining not getting Posted Bounties. Runner draws into a Parasite, has a fairly big hand, looks like a couple of viruses, has another Djinn. So you can see a medium, a Demolition run, another Data Sucker, and a dupe of the Corroder, so another dupe that'll just sit in his hand. Draws into a Crypsis. He's not in a bad position. The Crypsis would actually be really powerful right now. He can drop in the Crypsis, and there it comes, trashing a card off of the deck. We'll see if they remember it this time. This is one of the weaknesses of Noise. You actually have to remember to use his ability. If neither player remembers, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So here he charges guard. Actually, the Grimoire causes Crypsis to come into play with a token on it. And now he can start to put pressure on the runner and put it on fairly safely. Res is an Enigma. We'll see if he decides to break it. Sometimes just forcing the runner to res ice is a good thing. In this case, it costs him 4 credits to break, where it would be an opportunity of cost of actually 2 credits. In this case, sorry, it takes 6 credits to break because you're wasting a token on Crypsis, which is effectively 2 credits. He has to pay 2 for the strength, and then 2 if he wants to break both subroutines. Whereas he could have just bounced off, lost the 2 credits of opportunity cost that he wouldn't be able to take with Magnum Opus, and let the turn pass over to the Corp. Corp still holding on to commercialization, draws into that hedge fund, also still has a couple of agendas in his hand. Still in a position where he has a toll booth on HQ and can't res it. This is why, if you don't see the Corp installing stuff, even in a theoretically safe server, you kind of want to run HQ. Because in this case, you would believe he would install something there because it looks safe. But at the same time, the runner not running HQ has caused him to give up probably 3 points at this point. Also, his reluctance to run archives giving up 3 points. Not always going to happen. The Corp has drawn into a ton of agendas early game here. Finally installs an agenda there. The Corp has drawn into a lot of agendas, which is somewhat surprising. Now here you'll see he's advancing his Project Atlas 1. This has been rather common in my play group, where they'll install Project Atlas with 1 token on it. It's kind of nice because if you do run traps, it sets them up. Drops in the commercialization for some credits, which allows him to res that toll booth and will allow him to score the Project Atlas next turn. But the 1 advancement on Project Atlas is generally so that you can score it for 3 points and come out with a token on it. Runner draws into an Ice Carver and a Femme Fatale. Wow. The Femme Fatale could be big here if he drops it on that Hadrian's Wall. One of the things that I've come to a reluctant conclusion on with the commercialization decks are that Femme Fatale is pretty much the core hard counter to them. It may very well be the only hard counter at the moment. Here the runner runs Archives, hitting Shadow, Corp reses. We'll see if the runner breaks. He might as well, because it doesn't really... You don't ever really want to give the corporation money unless you have a lockdown on R&D, in which this case he could actually do. He could lock down R&D to the point where the Corp has to go through him to get cards. Looks like he did break. He's going to see the Prio Requisition. I can't speak today. And passes it back to the Corp. See what Corp draws into. He's already spent... Ooh, nice, another Archive Memories. He's already spent the commercialization, so he's down to 4 cards. Draws into a 5th, meaning he can score the Project Atlas for just the 3 credits and not have to discard anything. Good efficient move, gets him a token on Project Atlas, so he can very well just draw into a... the 1-point agenda late game if he wants, or he can go searching for maybe a Scorched Earth if the runner has a tag. Runner draws into a Joshua B, a Cyber Feeder. I still haven't seen anyone make really a deck focused on Joshua B yet. It's a card that seems like it should have a bunch of application, and yet no one has really built a deck around it. Kind of makes me want to build one. Drops in a Cyber Feeder. Always a good card with a Crypsis because it's efficient, or it makes the Crypsis efficient. You can see he drew cards and discarded an Ice Carver. Corp draws into another Ice, look like an Ice Wall. Still has... There he goes, installs Posted Bounty. Now, he discards an Archive Memories. Interesting. Either that or he may have played something, but it looks like he just... Yeah, I couldn't tell there. He may have used the commercialization. Install Archive Memories for commercialization and then used it. He did take a bunch of credits, so I'm kind of leaning towards that. Either that or a hedge fund. Runner looks like he's going to install Medium. Comes into play for 1 as he spends the 2 Cyber Feeders. That will again trash a card from R&D. One of the things, again, he just keeps forgetting it. We'll see if he remembers it here. You can't forget it. If you forget it, the Corp may not remember it either, and you just keep losing the top card discard, and that's a major reason for playing Noise, and that's the only reason to play Noise over Wizard. If you forget his ability, you are certainly punishing yourself. So here he runs, sees 2 cards, scores a second priority requisition. Oh, that is the power of Medium. In general, if you assume the corp has 49 cards in deck and 20 points of agendas, basically each card is worth 4/10 of a point that you see out of R&D. So if you can see 19 cards out of R&D, you should win the game. 50% of the time, obviously, depending on how the cards come up. Always a reason to run R&D, though. It's my favorite server to run when I play. So here you can see he draws into a shadow. He's been sitting on a corporate troubleshooter the whole game, but hasn't drawn an archer. Generally, that's the way he plays corporate troubleshooters, behind archers, and I assume behind woodcutters. Finally installing ice on R&D, probably because of the medium. If I had been running, I would have just been blowing up R&D. I don't worry about the cost, because if you see every card that the corp is drawing, they can't score agendas without drawing. So I tend to just blow up R&D as fast as possible. But it's always good to have ice on R&D. Draws into another Amazon grid. I'm sure he wished he had drawn that before installing those ice on R&D, but it is what it is. It's one of the disadvantages of the card. It doesn't have a ton of late game applicability unless you're doing something like private security contract, blowing up your own ice, and then installing more ice on top of it. It's kind of interesting how it's really an early game card, the Amazon grid is. Amazon Industrial Zone. Drops in the corporate troubleshooter. That'll make it so his Adrian's Wall is much bigger than that Corrodor if he needs it to be. That'll be nice for passing an agenda. Looks like he's going to take some money and possibly finally start to try scoring that posted bounty. No, he's going to draw into a card here. And he draws another posted bounty. Oh, that's the disadvantage of having a lot of agendas in your deck. You tend to draw them. They're all one-pointers, but it's unfortunate to draw that many agendas. On the bright side, it does wind up giving you stuff to put behind your remotes so that you can force the runner to run. It's a bit of a benefit, even if there is a negative side to it. The runner looks like he's going to run R&D here. Again, I love putting pressure on R&D. The more pressure on R&D, the more ice they have to waste there, and the less ice is on their other servers. He hits Shadow, which Mimic can break, costing only 2 credits, and he's got the Cyber Feeder and the bad publicity to do it. Hits a second Shadow. I'm not sure if that was the best use of money here. It does make it so running R&D costs like 7 credits a turn because he only has Crypsis and Mimic to break it, but I would gladly pay 7 credits a turn. In effect, you can take 6 credits from Magnum Opus, you have Cyber Feeder, and then you run. He has to charge Crypsis, so he can only get 4 credits from Magnum Opus each turn, but he can basically run R&D each turn right now. Not sure what just happened there. He saw 1 card. Oh, he's putting the virus tokens on. Sees an Archer. Ugh. Sees a Scorched Earth. Ugh. Bad cards to see. And another Archer. Ooh. That's possibly one of the worst 3 cards you could possibly see in a row. He does have Demolition Run, and he is going to use it here. He's going to lose his Crypsis to do this, but he doesn't have enough actions to straight up get rid of the charge Crypsis and get rid of the Archer, Scorched Earth Archer. So it's an interesting move. With Jin, he could easily go search for another Crypsis in the event that he needs one. Assuming he runs more than 1 Crypsis. I always advocate running multiple Crypsis, but not all people do because it's not a great breaker. It's consistent, it's reliable, but it's incredibly inefficient. So here he is making the run. Looks like he's going to use the Data Sucker tokens to drop the strength of the Enigma. Now, on the bright side, he's going to see a 4th token from the medium, so he's going to get a 4th card, could be an agenda. Drops the Archer, drops the Scorched Earth, drops the second Archer, so pretty much no more Archers in the deck, and sees this. Oh my goodness. That is possibly the best Demolition run I've ever seen. And I can't say I see them common. They're not common in our meta, but that was an, oh man, and then he draws a Toll Booth. This is a little absurd. He doesn't have a ton of credits, so that Toll Booth may not be particularly effective, but wow. Now, a disadvantage is the Corp is running archive memory, so he can actually just kind of go grab whatever he wants with it. But he did discard one, so he's down to either 2 or 3 remaining. So he's got to be somewhat picky about what he uses them for. I'm still shocked that the runner hasn't run HQ. The Corp, I don't know. I don't feel like that server is that sturdy. You know, he had the Cryptus to break it. He can drop in a Parasite anytime and blow up the Enigma. The Hadrian's Wall, you know, the Corroder can beat the Hadrian's Wall. I'm very surprised he hasn't chosen to run HQ. We know it would burn the Corp of 8 credits. He doesn't know that. But it would burn the Corp of some credits no matter what, assuming he resed it. One thing I'll see in our meta is that people will res ice on HQ as their last action, just to reduce that last chance of them getting in. It's an interesting tactic. Depends on what the ice is too. I'm sure you would res a toll booth on the first run just because it's so hard to break. Passes it back to the runner. Very nice. The runner has a test run, so he can get back Crypsis or go find a Yogg if he has one. A Yogg would really hurt the Corp here. It would be so cheap to run R&D, it would be almost unfair. It would basically cost him 2 credits a turn if you drew into a Yogg. Saw a Crypsis in there and possibly another Deja Vu. I missed the first card, but saw an Imp there. Imp will be very good here if he can get into HQ. I would be shocked if he didn't start running HQ here, though he may choose to use the Imp on R&D. Sorry, that other card was a Jin. An Imp on R&D, especially with medium in play, can also be very powerful, because Imp is just so good at getting rid of the card you don't want to see. I especially like trashing Ice with Imp, but different people will choose different things. I can't believe these draws on the Corp side. It's just huge ice. I mean, at this point, I would just drop in the Archer in front of Enigma and be trying to score stuff. It almost looks like he's trying to get back to Scorched Earth. He may very well be, because he has a 3 advanced post to bounty. He may very well just be waiting to draw into the Scorched Earth, or he could be trying to destroy the Ice Carver, which is a good card to destroy. Because currently the Shadows of Strength 0 when he runs the Enigma Strength 1. Very interesting. He knows he has 1 Archive Memories in the deck. He may also know he has a Scorched Earth. Now, one thing he can do here is score the posted bounty, grab a Scorched Earth, play it, grab the Archive Memories, and Scorched Earth again. So he can do 8 damage straight up here if the runner doesn't have the 8 cards in hand to prevent it. And he can't because he only has 1 Public Sympathy in play. So, it's interesting. He didn't do it. I wonder if he doesn't have the extra Scorched Earth in his deck. Maybe he didn't think about it. I'm somewhat surprised. The runner would not have survived the Scorched Earth combo there. Not sure if I missed something. But he does install another agenda that I believe is the Project Atlas and double advances it. So he can pretty much, if he scores that Project Atlas with 2 tokens on it, he can close out the game with 2 Project Atlas searches. Search for the 1-point agenda, score it, search for the next 1-point agenda, score it, and the game's over. So this is a very bad position for the runner. He needs to win the game, not this turn. Well, he would like to score the Project Atlas, obviously. But if he can't score the Project Atlas, he is going to need to win the game in the next 2 turns. Right now, the runner has 4 points, actually, very quickly. The runner has 4 points, he scores the Project Atlas, gaining 2 points, and then he searches for the final 1-pointer. So that could be why he didn't go for the tag and bag. But at the same time, the runner only needs 1 point to win, so I'm not 100% sure what happened there. I will have to ask him when I see him. Runner installs Parasite, should be trashing cards from top of deck again. Again missed it. You know, these misses, they will cost you games. So he activates Jin. Not sure what he's going to go for. Maybe a Crypsis? Nope, gets a Femme Fatale. There it is. Good choice here. That probably is the game. Now he's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the disadvantage of the size of his rig. It's a fairly big rig, especially with Magnum Opus. He needs almost multiple Jins to make it work. Runner runs archives, sees nothing, then runs the remote, going to... Now, there's a corporate troubleshooter back there. So, the runner actually can't blow up the Enigma right now. He will not have any means to do so because he doesn't have a worm, and the data sucker simply is not big enough. So here... he's trying to figure out the math for the data suckers. Again, as the runner forgets stuff, it changes all your math. You know, you don't, when you're not discarding stuff, you don't have to. When stuff's getting discarded on their turn, and then you know they forget it, they pass to your turn, you don't defend it, and then you trash an agenda as you saw. So you really have to remember this stuff, as does the corp. So he looks at the data suckers. Adds 3 to it, so its strength's currently a 5, minus 1 to 4, so he makes it a 5. 5 is currently out of the reach of the runner. The ice carver was an additional minus 1. Sorry, 6 is out of reach. So even with all the data sucker tokens, the Enigma would be down to a 1 strength. He can't trash it, he can't break it. That will also end his turn. As the Enigma goes off, they can lose an action. So here's back to the corp. He's going to draw a card. We'll see what he gets. Probably won't really matter. Femme Fatale is returning to the top of the deck because he used a test run to put into play. He draws into a priority requisition. These are just unlucky draws. Here you can see just run R&D. Take it off the top, win the game. It's one of the reasons I love running R&D. I'm sure the runner felt the pressure of the double advanced agenda, thought he could get it and win the game. So this is the critical turn. The runner needs to run HQ here. He has to run R&D and run HQ. He has to force the corp into having no credits, so he can't win the game next turn. Because if the corp has no credits to score the agenda, it doesn't really matter that he can go and find it. So the runner Deja Vu's here, getting a parasite. He can blow up the agenda. I'm surprised he only gets 1 parasite because he could have gotten 2 viruses with the Deja Vu. Not sure if there weren't viruses down there. But actually, there was a Crypsis down there, so he could have at the very least taken the Crypsis. He's going to trash the Enigma. Sorry, trashes itself because it had the 2nd token on it. Let's see what he does with a parasite. I wouldn't be surprised to see it on the Enigma. That way he can run there 3 times his turn, ignoring the shadow tags and credits because, you know, he's going to lose the game if he doesn't score an agenda. But the final card in Archives was an agenda, and that is the power of noise right there. Oh, that's too funny. So there you have it. The raw power of Noise's discard is huge. Archives, while it's not always worth defending, his ability can quickly use your game. It's extremely unpredictable. You know, it's almost a 50-50 chance of him getting something or getting nothing in a game, just based on the way you draw. And ironically, the commercialization didn't play a huge factor in this game. He just didn't draw into anything to really make big, burned his 1 early commercialization, didn't draw into any more, and the Femme Fatale came out to pop up the Hadrian's Wall, but ironically all of the agendas scored were really just pulls from R&D and Archives. I know he's got 4 points from Archives, and I forget where the 2nd prio requisition, I believe that came off of R&D. And the deck was doing a good job of putting pressure on R&D, so it's a very interesting deck to play. Shows you the raw power of Test Run Femme Fatale as well, and additionally that you can then use Jin to search for a virus and shuffle in that Femme Fatale so that you don't draw into this big card. I'm not sure that's a more efficient than inside job, but it's definitely more versatile because you can search for anything. Alright, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.